Hello, EN112 students. In this short video, I would like to review a couple of issues, technical issues for this class concerning file names, format, and finding your feedback. So let's look at these one by one. And first, trying to get back to Moodle. So for example, when you submitted your essay 1 summary response first draft on week 3, you should be able to find a returned file. So if you keep scrolling down, which I cannot do because I'm not a student in this class, but if you keep scrolling, eventually you will find a file with your original file name and my initials, I am added at the end. So that is your returned file with feedback. Now, let me show you what that file will look like. And I prepared a file so that I don't have to expose anyone's name. So let's suppose that somebody named Jane Goody submitted a first draft of a position essay. And when you get your returned file, this is what you should be seeing. So if you are not seeing any of these comments, then you have to click on review and make sure that you click on this show comments. This is a file that already saves these comments, so they are okay. But in some files, all you can see is those little speech bubbles. So then make sure that you open all these comments and read them. Now, in these comments, what I do is that I just ask questions like any reader would do. So if something is not clear, or for example, in this case, this writer used the wrong word, then I would like to encourage the writer to check that word, and so on and so forth. So at the end, you will find a grade and a disclaimer that explains that grades on first drafts are not the final grades. And then I go over the structural parts of this assignment and I make some comments like, is this essay introduced? What is the thesis like? Now, guys, after learning about genre, you should know that with every assignment is a different kind of thesis. I make some comments on that. This is a first draft for the position essay, so I'm checking if different positions are described. Is there a second reading used? Did the writer provide an outline, and does it make sense? Expression, and then finally citations and format. Now, if you look at the rest of the file, then you can see some yellow and red highlights. These are usually grammatical or punctuation issues, like the New York Times should have been italicized, and this little pencil icon means that there's a missing comma here, and when you see two pencil icons, that means that there's either a run-on sentence or a comma splice. And this yellow highlight means that this comma is not necessary. So sometimes I explain in comments what is the problem, but like in this case, I assume the apostrophe was missing. So if the writer compares this draft to the original draft, they should be able to figure out what needs to be changed. Now here, there's a huge problem with formatting the references. These are wonderful references, but if I look at the format, then I can see that there's no line spacing, so it should have been double spaced. Okay, and then the hanging indent should be introduced. So when I do that, that looks much nicer, except this writer added some extra spacing here by hitting enter, so I have to take that out so that it looks nice. But I usually copy and paste it, and there were some other issues here like the title capitalization and other problems that I make comments on. So in any case, when you get a first draft back, please do check out the feedback file. And if I was a student, I would print this, or if you can't print it, just look at it on the screen and make a list for yourself of what you need to do. Or some students are more technologically savvy and they can actually open two files next to each other and always go back to your original first draft that is not the one that you received back from your teacher, and then put that next to this file that has the feedback and then make the necessary changes. Now, let's talk a little bit about format. So for example, there is this draft that I got from a student. And I think that at this level of your studies, nobody should lose 10% of your assignment grade because of formatting. So I'm not sure why is this so difficult, but this is what I would do. So I select and highlight the whole text, right? And first I choose the correct font, Times New Roman, make sure that it's size 12. Then it's still highlighted. I go into paragraph and then I check that the spacing is set to 0, both before and after the paragraph, not to auto, and then it should be double spaced and it should be no indentation. And then also this should be in the header. So I would just kind of cut this out, go into the header area and paste it in there. Then of course in the header it has to be single spaced. So I single space it. And why is this important? Because if you put your information up in the header, then it will show on every page. And as we are writing longer papers, it will be important. Now, this writer also forgot to insert a page number. So I go home, click on Insert, and I click on page number, which should be bottom of the page, and it should be it actually should be centered. More page numbers. Well, there might be another problem that this writer is not using. Well, let me go back there and try this again. So going home, insert page number, bottom of the page, and this should be the second plain number in the middle of the page. So now this file is okay. Now I'm looking at the references, and of course this is a mess. I don't know what happened here. It should not be centrally aligned. And again, 0, 0. This should use the hanging indent only for the references, but there is something wrong here with the margin. I really don't know. So the bottom line is that it would save you a lot of trouble and work if you set up a blank file for every assignment and get some help if you need some help. And then always when you write a new assignment, you just always should use that same file, and that would take care of all the formatting. I mean, the bottom line is that it's not worth losing 5 points, or from an essay that is scored 50 points maximum, 5 points is 10% of your assignment grade, and losing that just because you are not double spacing, in my opinion, is not a very smart thing to do. So basically, make sure that you follow the format. If you have any questions, then always ask. And that's the same about feedback, because when I grade the final draft, I actually do go back to the first draft and check what changes have been made. And I don't expect the final draft to be perfect in any sense, but at least the only way we can tell in this class that you are learning something and improving your writing is if the final draft shows some changes. So this is what I think about giving feedback and formatting papers, and I'm looking forward to your forum assignments for this week to hear how you are handling feedback, giving it, getting it, and using it to improve your writing.